We are the Trottas. My people's roots are in Szepolje, in Slovenia. I say people because we're not a family anymore. Szepolje no longer exists, hasn't for a long time. It's been assimilated with several other villages to form a middle-sized town. As everyone knows, that's the trend nowadays. People are no longer capable of staying on their own. They form into nonsensical groups, and it's the same way with the villages. Nonsensical structures come into being. The farmers move into the cities, and the villages themselves, they want to be cities. I remember Szepolje from when I was a boy. My father took me there once on the 17th of August, the eve of the day when all over the country, even in the smallest hamlets, they used to celebrate the birthday of Emperor Franz Joseph. In modern Austria, and in the former Crown lands, there are probably only a handful of people to whom our name means anything. Where you will find our name, though, is in the lost annals of the former Austro-Hungarian army, and I will admit I'm proud of the fact, especially because the annals are lost. I am not a child of these particular times. In fact, I find it difficult not to declare myself their enemy. Not because I don't understand them, as I like to claim, that's my excuse. The fact is that manners don't allow me to be unpleasant or aggressive, and so I say I don't understand something, when really I ought to say I hate it or despise it. My hearing is acute, so I pretend to be a little deaf. To me it seems better breeding to feign an infirmity than to admit I've heard an unpleasant sound. My grandfather's brother was the infantry lieutenant who saved the life of Emperor Franz Joseph at the Battle of Solferino. The lieutenant was ennobled. For a long time afterwards he was known as the hero of Solferino in the army and in the reading primers of the dual monarchy until, in accordance with his own wishes, the shadow of oblivion settled over him. He took his leave. He is buried in Hietzing. On his gravestone are the quiet, defiant words, "Here lies the hero of Solferino." The imperial grace and favour were extended to his son, who became district commissioner, and to his grandson, who fell in autumn 1914 at the Battle of Krasnobursk as a lieutenant of the Jaegers. I never met him, as indeed I never met any of the ennobled branch of our people. The ennobled Trottas were all loyal servants to Franz Joseph. My father, though, was a rebel. My father was a rebel and a patriot of a sort that only existed in the old Austria-Hungary. He wanted to reform the empire and save the Habsburgs. His understanding of the dual monarchy was too acute. He therefore aroused suspicion and was forced to emigrate. As a young man still, he went to America. He became a chemical engineer. In those days, they needed people like him in the sprawling dye works of New York and Chicago. When he was still poor, the only sort of homesickness he felt was for the countryside. But once he had made his fortune, he started to feel homesick for Austria. He came home. He settled in Vienna. He had money, and the Austrian police liked people with money. My father was not merely left alone, he was permitted to found a new Slovene party and bought a couple of newspapers in Zagreb. He made some influential friends in the circle of the heir to the throne, Archduke Franz Ferdinand. My father dreamed of a Slavic kingdom under the overall suzerainty of the Habsburgs. He dreamed, if you will, of a triple monarchy. And perhaps it is only right for me, his son, to say I like to think that if my father had been spared, he might have changed the course of history. But he died, some 18 months before Franz Ferdinand was murdered. I'm his only son. In his will, he bequeathed me his ideas. Not for nothing did he have me christened Franz Ferdinand. But I was young and foolish then, not to say frivolous. I was certainly frivolous as well. I lived, as they say, into the day. No, that's wrong. I lived into the night. The days were for sleeping.